cold night in Indiana wasn't the kind you shrugged off with a thicker coat. It was the kind of cold that could kill. A freezing night where the wind cut through everything. Aubrey Johnson walked to her car after work and spotted something tiny trembling under a truck. She thought it was a lost house cat, but it was actually a freezing bobcat kitten trying to survive the bitter cold. For 15 minutes, the little wildling kept darting away, then creeping back, until the cold overcame her fear. When Johnson opened her car door for warmth, the kitten jumped right in as if she'd been waiting for that moment her whole life. Johnson quickly realized this wasn't a domestic pet. There was no mother in sight, and the kitten was in critical condition. But getting her warm is only the first battle. Could one moment of mercy be enough to save a life that belonged to the wild? Before we start, hit the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. The cold that night in Indiana wasn't the kind you shrugged off with a thicker coat. It was the kind that made the parking lot feel like metal. Hard, bright, and unforgiving. The wind slipped between buildings and found every gap in Aubrey Johnson's scarf as she left work just before 11. Aubrey wasn't a nurse or a firefighter. She worked in medical billing. Quiet, detailed work that kept a clinic afloat. She was the last to leave more nights than she liked. The type raised to finish the job and lock the door behind her. She was almost to her car when she heard it. Not a clear meow, not a loud cry. Just a thin sound, like the night itself had cracked. Aubrey stopped and listened. The lot was mostly empty, the kind of empty that made you aware of your own footsteps. The sound came again, closer, and she followed it with her eyes. Under a white pickup truck, something moved. Two eyes caught the streetlight. "Hey," Aubrey whispered. A small shape slid deeper into shadow. It moved like a cat, but carried itself differently, lower, warier, ready to bolt. Aubrey's first thought was simple. Lost kitten. Her second thought hit like a punch. It's too cold for a kitten to be out here. She crouched and peered under the truck. The little animal pressed itself against a tire, trembling so hard its body shook. Its coat was thick and spotted. The ears were tall, edged dark. The face was sharper than any house cat she'd ever known, and the tail was short. Aubrey's breath caught. "Oh my gosh, you're not a cat." The kitten tried to hiss, but the sound came out weak, more air than warning. A bobcat kitten, in a parking lot, in a freeze that could kill. Aubrey looked around fast for signs of a mother. Movement near the tree line, tracks in the gravel, anything. Nothing. Just the dark fence, bare winter trees, and the hollow quiet of a late shift night. The kitten tried to stand. Its legs wobbled. Aubrey didn't rush. She didn't grab. She remembered what her dad used to say about frightened animals. You don't argue with fear. You offer safety. She glanced at her car, made a decision, and clicked her key fob. The lights blinked. She opened the driver's door and let the warmth spill out. It wasn't much, just a breath of heat in a world of ice. But sometimes a breath is everything. Aubrey crouched again near the truck, her voice soft. "You can come to warm. I won't touch you, just come to warm." The kitten lifted its nose and sniffed. One paw stepped forward, then another. It moved with careful courage, like something that didn't trust the world but couldn't deny what its body needed. It took 3 steps, paused, and shuddered as the cold pulled at it from the inside. Aubrey's throat tightened. "Come on, just a little more." Suddenly, the kitten darted forward, fast as a spark, straight toward the open car door. It jumped in. Not clumsy, not playful, desperate. It landed on the floorboard, climbed onto the seat, and curled near the vent like it had been waiting for that door to open its whole life. The kitten glanced at Aubrey once, eyes wide, furious and pleading at the same time, then let its head dip, heavy with exhaustion. Aubrey shut the door to hold the heat. She slid into the driver's seat carefully, hands shaking. She knew one thing. This was not a pet. This was a wild animal in trouble. She grabbed her phone and searched for a wildlife rescue number. The first hotline went to voicemail. She left a message anyway, voice tight. "I have a Bobcat kitten in my car. It's freezing. Please call me back." Then she called Animal Control's non-emergency line. "You're sure it's a Bobcat?" the dispatcher asked. Aubrey glanced at the short tail, the spotted coat. "Yes, I'm sure." "All right, don't handle it. Stay safe. We're contacting a licensed rehab partner." 2 minutes later, Aubrey's phone rang. "Hi, Aubrey. This is Claire with Hoosier Wildlife Rehabilitation Center," a woman said, fully awake now, the tone of someone used to emergencies. "Animal Control called. You found a Bobcat kitten?" "It jumped into my car," Aubrey said. "It's shaking. I don't see a mother anywhere." "Okay," Claire replied. "Thank you for stopping. Keep the car warm, but don't blast hot air directly at its face. If you have a towel or fleece, place it beside the kitten. Don't wrap it. Can you drive straight to us?" "Yes," Aubrey said. "I'll meet you at intake," Claire promised. Aubrey put a fleece from her trunk on the seat. The kitten leaned toward it without even lifting its head. As she drove through quiet streets, Aubrey kept glancing over at the small bundle of spotted fur. At a red light, the kitten lifted its head and looked at her. The look didn't feel like gratitude. It felt like a question carved into bone. "Will you let me live?" Aubrey swallowed. "We're going to get you help," she whispered. The rehab center sat behind a line of pines, modest buildings with warm lights glowing. Claire stood at a side door with a flashlight, waving Aubrey in. Aubrey parked and sat for one heartbeat, suddenly afraid of the words she might hear. Too late, too cold, too small. But Claire was already at the door, focused and calm. "You did perfectly," she told Aubrey when she saw the kitten curled on the seat. "Do you have a carrier?" "I don't," Aubrey admitted. "That's okay." Claire motioned to a volunteer who stepped out carrying a sturdy carrier lined with towels. He was older, late 60s, with careful hands and a gentle steadiness. "This is Earl," Claire said. Earl nodded to Aubrey, then looked at the kitten with a soft frown. "Little one's had a rough night," he murmured. They didn't grab the kitten. They didn't wrestle it. Claire draped a towel lightly over the kitten to dim the world, then guided it into the carrier with slow, practiced movements. The kitten made one small, thin sound and went quiet. Aubrey's eyes burned. Is she going to die? Claire met her gaze honestly. She's alive right now. That matters. She's in serious condition. But you got her here, and that gives her a real chance. Inside, the center smelled like clean towels, disinfectant, and warmth. An intake room waited under bright lights. A woman in scrubs stepped in, Dr. Margaret Hayes, the staff veterinarian. "Thank you," Dr. Hayes said to Aubrey, voice plain and sincere. Every minute mattered tonight. They weighed the kitten, 4 pounds, 11 ounces. Gums pale, heart racing, breathing shallow. When Dr. Hayes checked temperature, Her expression tightened. "Hypothermic," she said. "We warm slowly, no shock warming." They wrapped the kitten in warm towels and placed it into an incubator set to safe heat and humidity. They checked blood sugar, gave tiny supportive doses, and administered warmed fluids carefully. They picked fleas from the coat, checked paws for frostbite, and watched the kitten's breathing like every rise and fall was a promise. At one point, the kitten lifted her head and let out a faint rasp. Dr. Hayes nodded. "That's a good sign. She's fighting." Aubrey realized she was crying. While the incubator hummed softly, Aubrey heard herself say, "She needs a name, just for now." Claire glanced at Dr. Hayes. Naming in rehab was complicated. Names made people cling. But sometimes a name helped a human do the right thing. "What name?" Claire asked. Aubrey looked at the little body warming in the incubator. "Ember," she said, "because she made it through the cold, like a little ember." Dr. Hayes' mouth softened slightly. "Ember," she repeated. "All right." An hour later, Dr. Hayes stepped back. "Temperature is coming up. Not normal yet, but up. We'll keep her warm overnight and won't feed until she can digest safely." Claire walked Aubrey to the lobby. "You did everything right," she said. "People try to take them home, give milk, warm them too fast. You called. You brought her in." Aubrey's voice shook. "What if her mom is out there?" "She might be," Claire said, and the sadness in her eyes was real. "Animal control will check the area. But in this cold, a kitten that small can't last long alone. Whatever happened, Ember ended up with you. You became her bridge to safety." Aubrey went home with her car feeling painfully empty. She fed her own house cat, Juniper, and held him longer than usual, grateful for warmth that didn't tremble. Then she sat by her window with tea she barely tasted and replayed the leap into the car again and again. It wasn't trust. It was survival. The next morning, Aubrey called the center before lunch. Claire answered, and Aubrey rushed the words out. "Ember, how is she?" "She made it through the night," Claire said. Aubrey had to grip the stairwell railing at work. Relief hit like a wave. "Temperature stabilized," Claire continued. "Still weak, but responsive. Dr. Hayes started a tiny feeding after she warmed. She swallowed." Aubrey closed her eyes. "Can I see her?" "We limit visits," Claire said gently. "Wild animals need to stay wild. But we can schedule a short, quiet visit in a few days once she's stronger." Over the next week, Aubrey called every other day. The updates came like small chapters. Ember hissed when hands came near the incubator. "Good." Ember tried to stand and wobbled, then glared at the world as if offended. Also good. Ember groomed her paws for the first time. Very good. Then came a setback. "Diarrhea," Claire said on the phone, voice serious. "We tested. She has coccidia. We're treating it, but dehydration can happen fast." Aubrey's stomach dropped. "Is she going to be okay?" "We caught it early," Claire said. "We're supporting her. Dr. Hayes is on it." Aubrey didn't know how to help with medicine, but she knew how to show up. That evening, she bought clean towels, hand warmers, and a gas gift card and dropped them at the center. Earl was at the desk signing in volunteers. He recognized her immediately. "You're the one who brought in the Bobcat," he said, voice warm. "How is she?" Aubrey asked. Earl smiled. "Feisty, sick, but feisty. When an animal's got opinions, that's a good sign. Dr. Hayes met Aubrey and thanked her for the supplies. "Most of rehab is steady care," she said, "and steady care adds up." A few days later, Aubrey was allowed a brief nursery visit. The lights were dim. The air was warm. Ember lay curled in towels, but she lifted her head when Dr. Hayes cracked the incubator cover. Her eyes were sharper now. She stared right at Aubrey and hissed. Aubrey smiled through tears. "Hi, Ember," she whispered. Dr. Hayes kept her voice low and firm. "Minimal contact is crucial. We don't want her to associate humans with comfort. If she grows up seeking people, it can end badly." "I understand," Aubrey said. "I don't want her to be a pet. I just needed to know she's still here." "She's still here," Dr. Hayes agreed. The next 2 weeks were the turning point. The treatment worked. Ember's stomach settled. Her weight climbed ounce by ounce. The coat brightened. The eyes cleared. Claire started texting Aubrey short updates. Ember ate well. Ember climbed her hide box like a mountain. Ember hissed at me like I insulted her ancestors. Aubrey saved every message. She also started paying attention to the world differently. The tree line behind stores, the muddy tracks near creeks, the quiet places where wild lives moved unseen. She read about bobcats in Indiana and learned how secretive they were, how most people never saw them even when they lived nearby. That made Ember's parking lot appearance feel even more unlikely and more painful. Animal control searched for a den, for a mother, for siblings. They found nothing. Sometimes nothing was the only answer wildlife gave. 2 weeks after intake, Dr. Hayes cleared Ember to move from the incubator into a larger nursery enclosure with platforms and hides designed to encourage wild behavior. Aubrey visited again briefly. Ember perched like a tiny queen, alert and angry at the world, exactly as she should be. Claire demonstrated a feather lure along the floor. Ember's whole body changed, shoulders low, eyes narrowed, muscles coiled. Ember stalked, then sprang. She pinned the lure with fierce precision, biting and kicking like hunting was written into her nerves. "There she is," Earl murmured. "That's a bobcat." Aubrey felt awe and ache at the same time. Ember belonged to the wild, brush and shadow, hunt and silence, not to fleece blankets and warm car vents. A month after the night in the lot, Claire called again, this time with a smile in her voice. "Ember hit a milestone," she said. 5 pounds, 9 ounces. Coat looks great. She's active, alert, and absolutely furious with us. Dr. Hayes cleared her for outdoor acclimation in our juvenile enclosure when weather allows. Aubrey sank onto her couch. "She's okay," she whispered. "She's thriving," Claire corrected. They scheduled one final brief visit. Distance only, no talking, no trying to draw Ember's attention. On a pale afternoon, Aubrey walked the path behind the buildings with Claire to a larger enclosure set among trees. Logs, platforms, brush piles. An edge of forest world built to prepare young wild cats for the real thing. Ember was on a log, balanced and focused, watching a fluttering leaf like it was prey. She looked bigger now, still young but sturdier. Her coat shone. Her ears flicked at birds overhead. She moved with clean confidence. She was becoming what she was meant to be. Claire whispered, "She'll stay with us through the season. She needs time to grow, build muscle, sharpen hunting." We work with DNR for release when she's ready and conditions are right. Ember leapt from the log to a platform with effortless grace, then paused and looked past the fence toward the woods beyond. Aubrey felt tears rise again, but these weren't only sad. They were proud. "You know," she whispered to Claire, careful not to project her voice. "Everyone keeps telling me she's lucky I was there." Claire glanced at her. Aubrey swallowed. "But after seeing her like this, I think I'm the lucky one." Claire didn't argue. She just nodded. Earl came down the path with a bucket of supplies. He paused beside them, quiet. On the walk back, Aubrey asked him why he volunteered so much. Earl shrugged. "My wife passed a few years back," he said softly. "House got too quiet. The animals don't care about your sadness. They just need you to show up. That's a good reason to get out of bed." Aubrey understood that in her bones. Back at her car, Aubrey didn't wave goodbye to Ember. She didn't call her name. She didn't try to catch the Bobcat's gaze. That was the point. The best rescue, the best love for a wild animal, was the kind that didn't ask the animal to love you back. Later, months later, not just one, Dr. Hayes would load Ember into a covered crate and drive with a DNR officer to protected land. They would open the crate and step back. Ember would hesitate for one heartbeat, sniffing air that smelled like mud and leaves and old secrets. Then she'd slip out like a shadow. No dramatic goodbye, no turning back, just a young bobcat reclaiming the world. But the story would always begin the same way in Aubrey's memory. A tiny, freezing life under a truck. A car door opened. A leap into warmth. And the quiet truth that even the smallest ember, protected at the right moment, can grow strong enough to return to the wild.